Welcome, everybody, to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rance alongside Tommy Chrysan on this Monday morning edition of Sports Shorts Daily. TK joining us from Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. Today on Sports Shorts Daily, we're going to talk about the College World Series. How about the Ole Miss Rebels? How about Mike Bianco? One of the great stories of all time when it comes to college baseball teams winning championships in an unlikely fashion. You can put this right up there with Fresno State back, I don't know, 12 years ago or so when they were a 4 seed at a regional and Miami, mind you, and went on to win the national championship. So crazy stuff. We'll talk about that. So happy for Mike. Obviously, LSU baseball, some big news. They hire a pitching coach. They get one of the biggest transfers in the country, the biggest transfer hitter in the country for the second year in a row. Barry last year, and now Mr. Tommy Tanks this year. We'll talk about that. Plus, something happened in the major leagues involving an LSU Tiger and a Catholic High Bear that had never happened before, or at least not in this last century and a half. So we'll get into that as well. Let's bring in CK over at Court Street Cafe. Tommy, first off, your reaction to what you saw over the weekend, Ole Miss sweeping Oklahoma in the final, and just your takeaway of that.
Well, Ronnie, I watched every pitch of both games on the weekend, and look, don't discount Oklahoma's pitching. It was through the roof good. It really was. But Ole Miss was better. They found a way to win. It's like they wouldn't be denied. They just had that feeling, and they played really well. They won 18 of their last 22 games. We saw what they, 2 shutouts in the Super Regional. They get to Omaha. The only game they lost, they had the bases loaded down a run in the ninth inning, weren't able to make anything happen. But the Rebels did it with pitching. Some good defense, some timely hitting, a lot of 2-out hits for the Rebels. I mean, they really got it going. And, Mike Bianco, we all know that story, a dear friend of yours, and I'm happy for him, happy for the program. But, he has confidence in his pitchers, and he went out to the mound several times in Omaha and including in the 2 games against Oklahoma and basically said, hey, you're my guy. Find a way to figure this out. I believe in you. You're the best we got, whatever he told him. He's great with that inspirational, motivational stuff. And his players believed him. He believed in his players. And, Elko said a month ago, if we get to Omaha, we'll win it all. I mean, he was a prophet. A lot of people say that over time. It doesn't always come true. But it's a tremendous story. 64th team in. Finished 5th, Ronnie, 5th in the SEC West. At one point, this is a message for all of you fans of SEC baseball. At one point, there was 7-14 in the league, 7-14, and they're the College World Series champions. And here's another thing, Ronnie, that's very important. Coach Bertman pointed this out on the radio last night. The fact that Mississippi State won it last year put a lot of pressure on Mike Bianco, the Ole Miss program, because we don't live that Mississippi State Ole Miss thing. They do. Them folks, Oxford, Starkville, and it was like, okay, State did it. Mike, you've been here 22 years. You've been to Omaha. You've been in a lot of super regionals. And now, the Wolves were hollering when he got to Baton Rouge on that weekend. There's a chance he's not the coach next year. They got hot. They swept LSU. And 18 out of 22 down the stretch. It's what it takes. And I agree with what you said. It's one of them all-time college baseball stories like a Fresno State when they were a 4 seed in the regional, or Coastal Carolina who came rolling through Baton Rouge. Stony Brook didn't win it all, but they surprised a lot of folks, in Baton Rouge. So proof that, you can get it done. It's all about who plays the best baseball at the right time. No question about that. And Ole Miss did that. They deserve to win. Oklahoma's a very, very good team. That kid Horton that threw yesterday, I mean, he's a first, second-round draft choice, no doubt. And he had Tommy John surgery like 17 months ago. So, it was a lot of really good baseball. And also what was good, Ronnie, you and I are both sportscasters, as they say, to see, a lot of Louisiana guys, David DeLucci and Ben McDonald and Todd Walker and all these guys up there as a part of that crew all week. It was really, really good. And my final comment, Ronnie, there were 25,000 people at the park yesterday. 21,000 of them were Ole Miss fans. A lot of Rebel Red, Rebel Blue. And I think there was only 2 sections of Oklahoma people. I mean, come on, Oklahoma. You're a lot closer to Omaha than Oxford is, a whole lot closer. And, But look, I think Oklahoma's going to be a solid team for a long time. Ole Miss is going to lose a lot of people, but the Ole Miss Rebels are College World Series champions. Mike Bianco played at LSU, coached at LSU. His son's been on the LSU roster, including this past year. He's a national champion. Herb Vincent put a couple of pictures of Mike at the media table saying, national champion coach. And, of course, I sent you a picture of Mike holding the big trophy. So it's an amazing story, yet another amazing story in the world of college baseball. And I'm happy for Mike Bianco. You know him far better than I do, but I know the whole story and know so many people that are dear friends with him.
The interesting, that Coach Burtman said last night on Hold the Rope Radio about the pressure being on Mike Bianco this year to win it. And I see it from that perspective, we're obviously your big rival, but also I see it this way. And you got to hang with me on the analogy for a minute, because we're right here in Baton Rouge, and there was a big rivalry for probably 10, 15 years in high school football in the city between Redemptorist and Parkview, and these two teams, 10, 20 years ago were as good of football teams as anybody in the country, in the state, or even the country for that matter. And they would go battle each other, have these epic games in district. And then finally Redemptorist broke through and won the state championship. And the very next year, Parkview did the same thing. And I remember telling Kenny Guillotte, the Hall of Fame coach, that I was like, hey, did Redemptorist winning the state championship give your team the belief that they could do it too? Kind of broke that pressure barrier. And he said, that's an excellent point. He said, I didn't really think about that, but yeah, probably so. Because those two teams see themselves the same. They see themselves similar. They go, well, if they can do it, we can too, because the teams are so evenly matched. And I really believe that had an impact. I think it's the Roger Bannister story that Coach Burtman has made so famous, where Roger Bannister, became the first person in the world to break the 4 mile time in the mile. And yet, they thought for 2 centuries, if you broke the 4-minute mile, you'd die, that the body couldn't do it. You would physically die. And once he did it back in the 50s, over the next calendar year, over 20 people broke a 4-minute mile, because it's a mental pressure barrier you have to get to, a belief that absolutely I can do it. And I think Mississippi State winning it, in fact, helped Ole Miss, because they said, hey, we're just as good as they are. These are our teammates. These are the people we compare ourselves with. And so I believe that it actually helped them, didn't hurt them. Although when Mike Bianco was 7-14, 21 games into the SEC going into May, 7-14, he was fired. I mean, everybody believed he was fired, that the end days were there. I know I was being mocked online by people because they knew I was a Mike Bianco supporter and believer. And like, how's your boy Bianco doing? It just didn't make any sense that they were as bad as they were. I know we know they had some injuries and things like that, but that's why the season is what it is. That's why you play 56 games. That's why you play 162 in the major leagues. It's not football. You have to have a full year to be able to have those ups and downs and regroup. And they finished strong like the LSU team did in 2008. A terrible record going that year in the SEC and weren't going to make the tournament. And all of a sudden they won 23 games in a row and went off. They had that similar turnaround point. And I'm just so thrilled for Mike, because I know he does it the right way. I know how he teaches and coaches. It's a very similar system to what Coach Burtman had. And he does it a very similar way. It was time for him to finally break through and win a national championship. I couldn't explain why he'd only been to Omaha once in 22 years prior. It just didn't make any sense, because he's been so good. They've been in super regionals. But I'm finally glad that this will shut everybody up. This national championship will shut everybody up. He went from being fired, Tommy, on May 1st, in my opinion, to now he's going to get a championship, an extension, a raise, and he's never going to leave Ole Miss.
Ronnie, 2 questions from Chance. I'll answer the first one. You answer the second one. He said, how proud was Skip? I was with Coach Burtman last night. He was extremely happy for Mike's family, the Ole Miss program. He was happy for the SEC, but that special feeling that he has for Mike Bianco. I know Mike Bianco had breakfast with Skip Friday morning of the Ole Miss series and at Skip's house. I mean, a lot of people know that. I'm not letting the cat out of the bag there. And then his next question from Chance, Ronnie, is this the first assistant to Skip Burtman to win it all? I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
And certainly as a head coach. I mean, did he have an
Jim,
assistant, get one as an assistant somewhere? I mean, did Randy Davis, he wasn't in South Carolina when they won it. He
So
wasn't still there.
Jim Wells was the head coach at Alabama, and Alabama lost the national championship game in 1997 to LSU. That was the closest any former assistant or player had gotten for Coach Skip Bertman, to win it. So Jim Wells came close. Mike Bianco finally got there. And a little known fact, when LSU hired Smoke Laval, they actually offered the job to Jim Wells first. He was at Alabama. It was 2000 when the conversation happened, and he was offered the job. He turned it down, and then Smoke Laval, who was the head coach at UL Monroe, accepted it. And then later on, when they let Smoke Laval go after 5 years as the head coach, he had a conversation with Mike Bianco, but it never really got too far because at that time, circa summer of 06, Ole Miss gave Mike Bianco an extension. They gave him a raise. He actually was making more money than Paul Maneri was making coming to LSU from Notre Dame. So there was, I think they bumped them up to $600,000 at the time, which was unheard of. And so I think that's a situation where, LSU just, Skip was not going to overpay for somebody like Mike. And here we are years later, obviously. I thought last year was a perfect time for Mike to leave Ole Miss to come to LSU. I thought they had kind of exhausted each other. Maybe his message had gotten a little stale there. Maybe vice versa. Maybe they were ready for him to part. Thanks for everything you've done. And now he can come to LSU and have a fresh little juice, some new juice. Clearly, he didn't need the juice. He had plenty of juice left in the tank.
Yeah, he really did. So again, it's a wonderful story, and Skip Bertman was very, very proud. And as you said, he's the first Skip assistant to win a ring as a head coach. So that's really cool. And I know Coach Bertman, like I said, he was very proud last night.
One last thing, TK, LSU baseball this past week named a pitching coach, and boy, did they get a good one. Jay Johnson tried to get Wes Johnson, the pitching coach of the Minnesota Twins, last year, and I remember him telling me about it. He got somewhat close, but Minnesota kind of put up a roadblock. He wasn't ready to go, but this year he was, and that's amazing to think that LSU is going to have the pitching coach from the Minnesota Twins going to leave their team in the middle of the season to be the head pitching coach for LSU. That just gives you an idea of how much money they make now at the big-time college baseball level.
Well, and the other thing, Minnesota Twins are in first place by 5 games as we speak. So it's not like they're at the bottom of the division and it's like, oh, well. So, no, but I like the fact that he's been a big league pitching coach. That's going to help recruiting, okay? No question about it. But also, he had a brief stop at Mississippi State, a couple of years at Arkansas as pitching coach. So he knows the SEC. He knows the SEC West. He's been to the box. He's been to Duty Noble Field. He's been in Oxford. He's been to, Baum Stadium in Arkansas. He knows what he's walking into. I'll just leave it at that. And I was pleasantly surprised, shocked when I saw that they had hired him. I was not aware that they had talked to him last year. I appreciate you pointing that out. But no, this is a big get for LSU, and probably one of the reasons it's a big get is it's a big bonus for recruiting. When you can go tell a kid, hey, I was a Minnesota Twins pitching coach for 4 years. Not only do I know people, but I can help you get to that level. I can make you better. And there was an argument this year that a lot of LSU pitchers didn't get better. Now, and that's water under the bridge. The other thing Jay Johnson has done without a recruiting coordinator is land some big-time transfers out of the portal, starting with Tommy White at NC State, Pineda, the shortstop at Baylor, Christian Little, projected next year, 2023, to be a first or second round draft choice. He's a right-hand pitcher from Vanderbilt, who I saw throw a couple times this year. He's the real deal, and then they got the other pitcher from Creighton. So Jay Johnson's been a very, very busy guy, and the announcements are flying out of the stadium.
I'll say this about Tommy White, Tommy Tanks. Guy had 28 homers and hit 368 as a freshman in the ACC and NC State and set records. That's not – LSU basically is replacing one Barry with another. That's exactly what they're doing. That they get him for 2 years. He's got 2 years of eligibility, not one, before he can be drafted. He is a guy who mostly DH'd. He plays first and third. Obviously, he's not going to play first with Trey Morgan. He might get a little bit of first, and this is literally from Jay Johnson's mouth, that they may play a little bit of first from time to time just to get Trey some looks in the outfield, just for pro scout purposes. But I would think that most likely we'll see him play first next year, 2024 season, once Trey leaves. But he's going to play third. And look, it's probably not going to be real clean. It'll be much like it was with Barry. You're gonna give up the defense for the offense.
Well, I think Jay Johnson has always said, he'll trade defense for offense for defense every day of the week.
Right. You're gonna give up defense for offense.
Right.
But you get a lot of offense, and it's really funny. You're gonna literally get Jacob Berry. You're replacing one Berry with another, except he's not a switch hitter. And I'm excited for him, and he was expected to go to Florida State. The rumor was he was going to be going to Florida State. Giant NIL deal. In fact, that when they let go of their coach, Mike Martin Jr., when LSU got on them and they beat out Vitello, they beat out O'Sullivan, who had in-home visits with them. They beat both of them out. Jay Johnson went to his home, met with them. After he met with all three in 3 days, Vitello and O'Sullivan, he came to Baton Rouge on a visit, and after 2 days, committed to LSU and canceled his visit to Tennessee. So, Jay Johnson and the gang did a great job.
And I thought I read he's from Tallahassee or the Tallahassee area.
From Tampa is what Jay.
Tampa. Okay,
but from Florida.
Okay.
Definitely.
Well, no. So, tip of the hat to Jay Johnson. He's getting it done without a recruiting coordinator. It kind of maybe says you don't need a recruiting coordinator, but you do. Okay, I'll retract that. You do need a guy, but when the head coach is doing it, I guess because he doesn't have a coordinator, he can do a little more as the head coach. I don't know all them rules.
The head coach. Florida actually does a lot. He's their head recruiter, and that was a giant benefit for a long time. Is that when O'Sullivan got the job at Florida, he was single. He was divorced. He likes to recruit. He was the guy out there recruiting, and you're a player, and you got either at the time Nolan Kane talking to you as assistant at LSU or O'Sullivan, a head coach at Florida, physically at your game. That makes a difference. And so, a head coach can go recruit. It's simply a piece of paper, a waiver that you sign from week to week to say, all right, this guy's going to stay home. He's not going to go recruit. You don't have two people recruiting at one time. That's the rule. But Jace Johnson loves to recruit. He has not been on the road at all this summer. He said that due to the transfer portal and hiring coaches and the way things are now, transfer portal, the days of going to Atlanta for 3 weeks and sitting there and watching hundreds of high school games of 15, 16-year-olds, those days are over because you're getting transfers, you're getting portal guys, you're getting older guys. And he's like, I like to recruit. And he says, I haven't left Baton Rouge. And so he's actually excited about the National High School Baseball Championships that are going on this week in Baton Rouge. 8 teams from around the country, 8 of the top 500 players in the country, 8 teams full of top 500 players around in the country are going to be in Baton Rouge. And so he's actually at Parkview Baptist today. He's actually at Alex Box today watching baseball. And that's the first time he's been able to do that this summer.
Yeah, well, he said at that press conference about 10, 11 days ago, his focus was on the roster. Yeah, he mixed in Wes Johnson as a pitching coach, but his focus has been and will continue to be on the roster. There's going to be a lot of changes. We've all talked about that. When you pull out the roster next February for the season opener, there's not going to be many names that were there last year. Let's just leave it at that. And but that's part of the landscape of college baseball now. All teams are going to be like that.
Over under 18.5 is the line at the LeBaire Sportsbook.
It's going to be. You mean returning?
As far as returning players, there were.
I think it's way under that.
There were 40 players on the roster last year, and I think over under is 18.5, and I think it will be under.
Well, and they got to go back to 35 next year on the roster. That was the pandemic thing that they pushed it up to 40. And let's hope the weather holds off for local baseball this week. Yeah, we're hoping for that always, Stephen. But anyway, So
credit to Dugas and Malazzo, who took Tommy Tanks to Topgolf when he came on his visit, and they went over there and hung out. So obviously they hit off. So credit to them. Nice job recruiting, fellas.
Okay, good deal. That works. It's all about recruiting.
Well, by the way, I want to let you know before we go, the Baton Rouge Rougarou summer college baseball team is going to be in action 4 times this week: Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday at Pete Goldsby Field. That's at 1502 Foss Street, right by the state capitol in downtown Baton Rouge. So come check us out. A lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff going on. Friday night we have fireworks during the 7th inning stretch. We've got different specials each and every week. Of course, we sell cold beer, daiquiris, the whole 9 yards. Got fantastic Chris's specialty meat hamburgers, Kirkland specialty hot dogs, you name it. Come on out. We want to see it. It's a Wood Bat Summer College Baseball League. And the month of July, we literally, which starts on Friday, we have 15 games at home in the month of July. So we hope to see you this week before the holidays. Go to brrougarou.com, brrougarou.com. Make sure you come out Friday night for the fireworks. And it's also a free night. Pack the Park Friday night. Thanks to Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge. Everybody gets in free Friday night. I know we'll be honoring USSSA as well on that night.
Hey, a couple things real quick. Jamie says, why don't they let them have 40? It went from 35 to 40 after the pandemic. It's going back. Ronnie, real quick recap. How was the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame weekend? I know you've been busy, but Chance asked that quick question. Give us the quick summary.
Yeah, it was great. And, oh, by the way, it went and when the pandemic hit in the spring of 2020, the roster limitation was 35. In 2021, the roster limitation was unlimited. NCAA waived it. Teams could carry as many players they wanted. In 22, they went to a 40-person cap, and now in 23, they'll go back to 35-person roster. To go to lasportshall.com, you can actually watch all of the recap specials. You can watch the Purple Carpet, the Walk of Legends that we had Saturday night. You can also watch the induction banquet itself. If you don't want to watch all 3 hours of it, you can actually scroll on YouTube on lasportshall.com. You can scroll to watch which inductees you want to see, because we have a 3-minute video for each inductee, about a 7-minute talk by each inductee. We, everybody was fantastic to deal with. The weather was great in Natchitoches. The city rolled out the red carpet. We had Rockin' Doopsie on stage Friday night, put on an unbelievable show. We had the fireworks show Saturday night. But of all the people that got inducted this year, and this is always the case, Tommy, everybody knows about Jari Evans, and everybody knows about Kyle Williams, and they're class acts, and they're amazing football players. Jari Evans with the Saints as a Super Bowl champion offensive lineman. Kyle Williams, of course, LSU and the Buffalo Bills, 6-time Pro Bowler. But one of my favorite people was Steve Duhon. Steve Duhon is from Opelousas. He went into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame as a rodeoer. He's in the International Rodeo Hall of Fame. He became a linebacker at LSU in 1981, I believe it was. He ended up playing in every single game as a true freshman at linebacker for LSU, and decided after that year that rodeo was his passion, and became the.
But again, you can see all this at lasportshall.com. Got the website on the screen for you, lasportshall.com. Also, don't forget to like and share this video. We've lost Ronnie momentarily. We'll see if we get him back. There he is. He's back. I told him we had lasportshall.com on the screen, and now we got like and share this video, as we always like you to do.
All right. Well, check us out on Wednesday. Tommy, I got to run. Go to lasportshall.com. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for all the comments and listening. Like and share this video. Talk to you again Wednesday morning.